Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Rando Rob. My name is Rob, and on this show, I pick random items from the vast collection of things I own. Some of them are very, very old. Some of them are very, very new, and I show them to you and tell stories about how I acquired them and memories that those things evoke. This was originally a show for my Patreon supporters, and now I have unleashed it upon the general public. So I am posting new episodes of Rando Rob every Monday and throwback and retro episodes of Rando Rob every Tuesday through Friday. You can get those from my main podcast feed. You can get those from their own podcast feed. If you love listening to these, you can get them on their own feed. It is on iTunes. Just search for Rando Rob. That's two words, Rando like random, Rando Rob. You can also find the feed on my podcast page, which is podcast.robohara.com, or you can watch the videos on YouTube, which is at youtube.com/Rob O'Hara. That's my name, and there is a playlist just for the Rando Rob videos. Just remember that they are numbered sequentially in the order that I record and release them. So for the old episodes, we are up to episode number 8 that I have posted, and this is, I think episode 89 perhaps. And so eventually, if I do this long enough, those numbers will meet in the middle. Although the old ones that I'm posting one a day will catch up to the new ones that I'm posting. So anyway, with all that out of the way, first of all, I hope everyone out there is having a happy holiday season. I would say Merry Christmas. I'm so confused as to when people say, well, you shouldn't say Merry Christmas, but I am wishing a Merry Christmas to everyone else. If you are offended and you would prefer that I say Happy Holidays, then Happy Holidays. If this is you like season's greetings, then season's greetings. Well, you can just change whatever comes out of my mouth and interpret it as a general wishing of good faith, good spirits, good vibes and wishes from me to you. I didn't know anybody who actually celebrated Kwanzaa, but I had a coworker mention that they celebrate Kwanzaa instead of Christmas, which I think is very interesting. I don't know much about the actual celebration of Kwanzaa, but I would like to learn more about that. And there are not a lot of Jewish people in Oklahoma. So, like growing up, I didn't know any people who celebrated Hanukkah. Now, of course, being online now, I know lots of people who celebrate Hanukkah. So, happy Hanukkah. If you're one of the people who celebrate Hanukkah. But no, it turns out in Oklahoma, there's a lot of Baptists and Southern Baptists, and a lot of Methodists, and some Catholics, and I don't know. I'm sure there's I don't know, what the heck am I talking about? I'm not a religion expert. I'm just a guy who likes to say ho 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 and eat candy canes and celebrate the holidays by watching a million holiday specials and celebrating Christmas traditions. It was a interesting year this year. My kids are 17 and 21, and I can feel each year a little bit more. I can feel the old traditions slipping away. For many years, we made these plans where we would say, it's 6 a.m. We're going to get everybody up at 6 a.m. If the kids get up before 6 a.m., they're not allowed out of their rooms. But at 6 a.m., we will kick off Christmas morning. The kids will come out of their rooms. I will have the video camera set up. I'll record them coming out and see their initial reaction when they see the gifts that Santa left. We'll record all of Christmas, and it's all literally a carbon copy of how I celebrated Christmas as a child. And so this was Not the first year, but definitely a year that I woke up at 5:30 in the morning, and then at 8 I had to go around and wake everybody else up. So I spent 2.5 hours watching Christmas movies and just waiting for everybody to wake up. And we had all agreed the night before, like, hey, we're going to do stuff at 8. But I thought maybe they would get up earlier than that, but no. So, yeah, just you can feel when the kids get older, and you can feel that things are changing, have changed, and will continue to change, So I think the one takeaway for me this year is that you have to make your own Christmas holiday spirit. You can't, if you're the type of person like I am that gets joy from other people's joy, you can't always do that. You can't count on that, And so partially what, I was just talking to my wife, and I was saying, part of what I enjoy about Christmas is sitting down to watch those Christmas specials and having everybody come around and watch them with me, like all of us watch it. It's the same thing about Thanksgiving. I always liked the whole family to watch the parade, and now mostly I'm the only person that watches the parade, and it's been that way at least for the parade for 10 years, So it's kind of the same thing about like the Christmas specials. Like, you get your joy from other people doing that, and at some point you have to adapt that, and you have to say, well, my joy comes from watching the specials and having the memories and things like that, because if that's not what makes other people happy, it's really what the holidays is about, is making everybody else miserable. All right, by the way, I'm wearing my Santa's helper shirt, which I've been wearing for like 3 days. I think this is day 3. I gotta go change shirts. I definitely wore it. I put it on for our Christmas Eve party, and then had it on all day Christmas, and today's the day after Christmas, so technically this is the 3rd day I gotta go change shirts. For those of you that are listening to the audio and can't see the shirt, it says Santa. It's a gray t-shirt. It says Santa's helper, and in between the words, it has a giant mug of beer. And yeah, it's been Santa's helper this year for sure. All right, well, let's get into this episode's item for Rando Rob. This is a brand new item that I got yesterday. I got it for Christmas. This item has been on my want list for about a year. It has been sold out. It has been difficult to find. Scalpers did get some of these and put them on eBay and doubled the price, which I just wouldn't pay because the original price is borderline too much to pay. But this is the M90. I believe this is the Mini. It is the Mini boombox that was made by, I wrote it down here, New Wave Toys. So let's pull this over here and show this thing on air. This is, first of all, if you are a child of the 80s, depending on, you may have had a specific boombox or model of boombox that you remember. This particular model, it was made in Japan. There's a Japanese version, but then there is a United States version, which I believe was released by JVC. So I think JVC made the original M90 boombox. So this particular boombox was pretty iconic. Now, for me as a kid, I don't have a specific attachment to this specific model of boombox. I probably had a friend who owned one of these. I definitely had boomboxes. I had one for a really, really long time, but it wasn't this specific model. So to me, the fact that it looks like a very specific model, I appreciate the work and the research and the attention to detail to make this look exactly like the original M90 boombox, but that's not really the reason I was interested in it. Uh, I mean, to me, if it had been the M91 or the M95, it wouldn't have bothered me the slightest. I was interested more in the features and also just in the general nostalgic feeling, that it evokes for me, just from being a boombox from that era, from the 1980s. So, this is not going to be a full detailed review of the M90 Mini Boombox, but I am going to talk about it, and I will occasionally hold it up here from time to time. So, first of all, if you're looking at it, you're going to say, well, that looks a little small. This is I believe, 60% scaled down model of the original M90 Boombox. So, this is a much smaller version of the original, with much newer guts. Obviously, that's one of the big selling points, along with the nostalgia factor. So, because this is scaled down, not everything on this works. There are a lot of little switches and little tiny buttons and things on here that were from the original that don't really, like, there's all these sliders that switch up and down. They don't really move. They don't do anything. But the important knobs on here do work. That's the bass knob, the treble knob. There is a fade left and right stereo knob, and then of course the volume. So all of those work. This is also, along with being a modern, I guess you'd almost call it a Bluetooth speaker, but along with that, it's also an AM/FM radio. Now, I think for most people, that's not really that important. I don't listen to AM/FM radio hardly at all. The only time I really listen to it is when I'm in my car, because my Bluetooth has not synced up. And on the rare occasion that we're on a road trip and I want to listen to the radio, I normally open up either the iHeartRadio app or I have another radio app, and I can listen to like Oklahoma City radio stations when I'm driving, and on the road, it goes through my phone to the Bluetooth to the car. But one of the things I have been thinking about is the drive-in. Now, we have a local drive-in. It's still open. Actually, it's closed for the season now. It closes the week of Christmas, and it won't open until the spring. But if you go to a drive-in, you know that they have those little terrible... actually, our drive-in doesn't even have the speakers anymore. You're just supposed to use your car stereo. But, I don't know. It just doesn't sound as good on the car stereo. And when I was a kid, and we went to the drive-in, you could either use the little speaker that hung on your thing, or they broadcast, and my dad would always bring a radio like this, and he would tune it to the station. We would, sit in the back of his truck, his Blazer, and turn up the radio, and you could really hear the music or the movie really well. So I'm thinking about in the spring, if I go to a drive-in, I'm going to take this little radio, which again is kind of just a glorified Bluetooth speaker that looks very retro and very vintage, but does have AM/FM radio built in. You can see across the top there's the tuner and the tuning knob, and it's all built in right there. So other than that, what does this do? Well, it is a Bluetooth player, so you can pair your phone with this, and it becomes a Bluetooth stereo. I'm not going to play it just because I've seen other videos, I've watched other reviews where people played it and it didn't sound great, and in person it sounds so good. It is the best sounding Bluetooth speaker I have ever owned. So for some reason it just doesn't translate in playing, picking it up, the audio from this through the microphone. But I'm going to tell you, I have a couple of boomboxes, vintage boomboxes, out in my workshop, and they don't sound as good as this thing sounds. This thing really, really sounds good. It gets way louder than you would expect it to, and it is very, very crisp and good sound. I'm so pleased. Now, maybe in my head, I'm remembering what cassette tapes sounded like. And so I'm thinking in my head, well, this sounds so much better because Bluetooth MP3s sound better than than a cassette tape, which is maybe that's true as well. But it just sounds really, really good. Now, if you're not into Bluetooth, if you look on the rear of the unit, you will see some familiar ports. And so what you'll see is there's a 3.5 inch or 3.5 millimeter input right here. So it's an auxiliary input like you're familiar with. You could plug some other audio source into this. There is a micro SD slot where you can insert a micro SD card and play music off of a micro SD. There is also a USB-A, the big USB port, where you can plug in a USB stick and it will play. This plays FLAC files, this plays MP3 files, and it plays WAV files. There's also a USB-C port on here, and that is a very important port, and I want to talk about that next. The reason that is an important port is because this has a large rechargeable USB powered, or not USB powered, but USB rechargeable battery. So the original, if you grew up in the 80s, you knew the bane of begging your parents for C-cell or D-cell batteries and having to ask for 6 or 8 or 10 or 12, however many your boombox required. It was expensive. And then, like I remember going on a field trip when I was in grade school, and having, loading my boombox up with batteries, and the radio didn't use as much battery, but the cassette player did. And I remember we went on this road trip for a school trip, and on the way back, the cassette was already starting to play more slowly, like it was slowing down. So, you could eat up a set of batteries over a couple of days. So they do sell there. This is not the only brand of retro influence, retro styled boombox, like modern boomboxes. Ion has one that actually plays cassette tapes, and it has a feature where you can output the cassette tapes to MP3, which sounds pretty handy, but I've heard that the conversion is not very good. In fact, I think it converts to 128 128K kilobytes for the quality of the MP3s, and that's non-negotiable. You can't change the settings. So in today's world, that's acceptable, but that's pretty low for people that really listen to audio. So if that's an important feature, then you could use that, right? And there are other retro-styled ones that are bigger, but all of them tend to use batteries. They're not rechargeable. This thing, I think it says it'll hold a charge for like 30 or 40 days. It's ridiculous how long this thing will last on battery power. I got it yesterday, opened the box, and it was charged up to about 50%, I think. And we've been listening to it off and on yesterday and today, and it hasn't even really changed. I haven't been listening to it a lot, but it's just pretty amazing. So I don't want to have to. I want to use this out of my workshop. I want to use this eventually in my van. If I go, on a trip and want to listen to music or something like that, I can sync up my phone. I don't want to have to take a thing of 100 cassettes or whatever. I just want to be able to listen to music on my phone or stream something. This will do that. And so I just think that's the neatest thing. Now, as I'm holding it back up, one of the things you will see here is there is a built-in cassette deck. But of course, this thing, when I'm holding it close, so it may be hard to see the scale, but when I hold it back towards my head, you can see it's much smaller than you would think. And that cassette tape deck is very small. And so you think, well, that thing must just be there for looks. And it is mostly there for looks. But one thing that's really neat about it, now I will say on my unit, the one that I got, the door is supposed to open on these, and it does, but mine is getting stuck for some reason. So I may have to take this thing apart a little bit. It kind of binds on one side is the problem. So I may not be able to open this, but I thought maybe there was a sticker that was over the side that's keeping it stuck. I don't know. You can definitely hear. It snaps back like after I do the eject button. Then I can, when you press it back in, it is snapping back in. So it's just like the lip is hanging on something. I don't know. It's kind of weird, but I can tell you that I've never opened this, so it doesn't. I mean, the only time you would open this is when you're showing it to somebody, like I'm trying to do right now, and you would be like, "Oh, that thing opens," and you go, "Yep, there you go," and you go, "Well, it's supposed to." But anyway, so they went all out. Now, I'm going to throw this here in the middle. This retails right now for $160. It's pretty high. And you could get a good Bluetooth speaker for $20. I mean, a pretty good one, right? So you have to really, really, really want this form factor. Now, I looked up earlier today on eBay. There's one right now for sale. It's this exact one, and it's buy it now for $289 on eBay. Now, I know you're thinking just because it's listed at that price, people aren't buying them for that price, but I can tell you, people are buying them at that price. They have been so hard to get. This was originally released through a Kickstarter, and they sold out, and there's been a waiting list for like 9 months. It's been really hard to get one of these. So I told my wife a long time ago that I really wanted one, and I was very specific. I said, I don't want one like this. I don't want a similar one. This is the one I want. I want this one, and I made that very clear. So she told my dad, and they came in stock, and so my dad got this for me for Christmas. But they've been super hard to find, and so I love it. I really do love it. Now I want to show you a couple other things. There's a battery compartment here in the back which is a scaled down exact replica of the battery compartment of the original. Now there's not batteries inside here. It is basically a hollow little case, and if you open it up, you can store one of two things in here. See if I can do this from the front side. Yep, there we go. I have stored a USB-C charging cable. So if I were to take this out somewhere and it were getting low, I can plug this into the USB-C port, plug it into a USB adapter, and I can recharge the device. But there's a second thing that could also be stored there. And I'm going to show you a couple of things that came with it, and we'll talk about how interesting or useful I find each one of these things. I'm going to show you the first things first here. I showed you that there's I don't want to say working cassette deck, but I'm going to say opening cassette deck, except for mine doesn't open very well. But if you press the eject button, it does the cool, slow opening where you would normally put a cassette. But of course, this is a 60% scaled down model, so a normal cassette will not fit in there. Well, it comes with a 60% scaled down cassette. This is non-functioning. It doesn't really do anything, but it is a real cassette case. It's just very tiny. So you can see it opens just like a normal cassette case does. And I thought, at first I thought the cassette doesn't come out, but it just turns out that everything is wedged in there pretty tightly. So inside there is, of course, the J cover, the piece of paper that's shaped like a letter J. There's a little tiny set of label stickers where you could put a sticker on the cassette tape and write, the name of an album or something. And then here is the tiny cassette tape. I've got it upside down here, but there is the cassette tape. Again, non-functional, doesn't really do anything, but you can place it inside the boombox. So this is one of those things that's just an amazing touch. Like if you're the type of guy that would spend $160 on a miniature replica boombox that works, you're the type of guy that would appreciate a miniature cassette tape that goes into the boombox. That's all I can say. I'm a grown man and I don't try not to use the word adorable, but this is adorable. I mean, it's just so nostalgic. It's very fun. I think a lot of people who would buy something like this might say, well, gosh, I haven't messed around with the cassette tapes. I have cassette tapes right across the room. So for me, it's not like I haven't seen one of these Memorex tapes. I have Memorex tapes that look exactly like this on the other side of the room. But that's a fun thing. I do feel like there are a lot of things with this boombox, little accessories that would get lost very quickly. So I may have to find a little pouch or a corner of a drawer or something to keep all these things that came with it. Second of all, let me show you this. These are, their replacement is not the right word. They are additional knobs. This is the front side, so you can see what the front of the knobs look like. They look like silver knobs. And the back side looks like silver knobs that have hollow holes in the middle of them. And so they're not replacements, because replacement implies that you would remove the old knob and replace them with a new knob. But the way that what they're intended for is these, the most common little twisty knobs on here, which is the bass and treble and the balance, left right balance. Those knobs right there are pretty small. Now, I mean, they function and they work, but they're small. They are definitely smaller than a pencil eraser. Maybe 2/3 the diameter of a pencil eraser. So these additional knobs that the unit comes with will literally pop over the top of those knobs. They're like caps that go over those knobs and make them larger. Now, when you do that, they look larger. They don't look like they're in scale with all the other things, but it makes them easier to see and to use. So that's a personal decision. Personally, I don't fiddle with the bass and the treble. I would say I turn the bass and the treble up to about 8 and leave it there. I find that it gives the treble, like things like hi-hats and things like that, it gives it a real crisp sound, which I like, and it turns the bass up to where I can actually hear the bass. Otherwise, with the bass turned down, the speakers, any speakers, sound kind of tinny. So I turn those, and I'm never going to turn the left and right balance off of middle. So for me, those are kind of set it and forget it knobs. I'm not going to fiddle with those all the time. And even if I were, they're certainly not too small to see and look at and adjust. So it's an interesting addition. It's just not something I think I'm going to use, but it's definitely something that I would want to keep. Now, this third thing here is interesting. On one end of it, you can see there is a 3.5 millimeter adapter, almost like a small headphone adapter that would plug into the unit. And on the other side is a corded remote. And so the options on here, you can turn it on and off. You can change the mode, and the mode will flip you through all those different settings I talked about. AM, FM radio is a mode. Bluetooth is a mode. USB on the back is a mode. Micro SD card is a mode. So you can cycle between those different modes. Then there is a button for play and pause. And you can hear they all have a little satisfying click to them. And then there's a fast forward button or skip forward, and there is a go back a track button. The most simplest of controls that you would imagine would be on any phone-based or Bluetooth-based, file-based player. Now, I thought, man, this is weird. Why would you include this? Because number one, if you're listening to files from your phone, you can control the files from your phone. If you want to skip a track, if you want to pause a track, if you want to do any of that stuff, you can do that from your phone. Not critical to have a wired remote, right? Second, those buttons are included right here on the front of the unit. And if we go over here where you can see those exact same buttons exist here. There is a power button right there. Actually, the power button's right there. There's a play button. There's a skip mode button. There's forward and backwards. So all those same buttons exist directly on the unit. There's just not a, you know, it's not like you can't use the remote from, 40 feet away. This cable is, maybe this is a 6-foot cable, 5-foot cable, something like that. So it's not like you could, be in another room or even on the other side of this room. You have to be, pretty close. So I was a little confused why this wired remote was included. I looked up someone else's review of the M90 and discovered that the original M90 came with this exact remote, but unsurprisingly 60% larger. Slightly different buttons, but it looks just like this remote. There's a red power button at the top of the remote. The other buttons are black. It's a silver remote, and it was corded and it plugged into the front of the boombox. So that helps explain why it comes with this. So it is functional. It does plug into the front of the boombox, and if you want to control your music, if you're listening to something on your phone and you wanted to skip tracks or pause a track, you can do that from this remote. I think they suggest that you could keep the remote in that back carrying, the fake battery compartment. I don't think that I will. I think 99% of the time I will be using this with my phone. That is my prediction. And so if I want to control the music or do anything like that from my phone or, with phone audio, I would do it with my phone. On the rare occasion that I would put music on this on a micro SD card or USB card, like let's say if you're having a holiday party and you want a boombox and you don't want to tie up your phone for hours and you just plugged in a USB stick full of Christmas music and hit play, then I would just press the play button right on the front of the unit and it would play. So I wouldn't need the remote for that either. So the remote, the additional knobs, and probably the cassette. What I'll probably do is take the cassette out and put it in the tray when I pop the tray back open again, and then leave it in there. But the case and all that, I'll put all those things in a drawer somewhere and save them. But I just don't think those are the things that I would use on a day-to-day basis. What I can see is having this out in the garage or having it in the car and all of a sudden seeing that the battery is low or something and needing to charge it. So I think the USB A to C cable is a much smarter thing to carry with me at all times. By the way, on the rear of the unit here, I showed the fake battery compartment. Again, this is on the original. This is where the real batteries went, but on this one, it's just hollow storage. I showed those USB and different media ports and stuff, but I didn't point out that it has actual working antenna, just like the original. They're just a little bit smaller, but they are folded up, but they do work. I've seen them work on other people's, but I haven't actually pulled these up and retracted them, but there you go. So they're just do one there, but they go up and they are just like an original remote. Now that's, when you get to the end, it's very thin, and boy, as a kid, I could see just pressing this, closing this down the wrong way one time and bending that thing. So I don't plan to use it a lot for radio reception, but I did try the radio. And it worked fine with the antennas down, just picking up some local stations. So I'll probably just leave it like this. On the front, there is some fake ports down here at the bottom. They're labeled mic 1 and mic 2 down here, and they're not... on the original, you could plug in microphones and you could do like karaoke and stuff like that with the original M90. But what those are on this is an internal microphone, so you can use this as a Bluetooth, just like a normal Bluetooth speaker, and you could take phone calls. And the audio quality is not great, but it's serviceable. So definitely, if you're listening to music and you get a phone call on your phone, you could pick it up, answer it, and you can. It almost feels like a Maxwell Smart thing where you're like, "Hello, hello, I'm talking into my radio. And people could actually, you could have a conversation and listen through the speakers. Maybe the next time I go to a morning restaurant and there's a kid there on his iPad who's playing a game, I'll just pull this radio out and put on some 80s break dancing music or maybe some death metal and turn it on and see how the little buggers enjoy that. I will say, I'll tell you one neat thing is when I'm going to say neat, but I might find this annoying at some point, is when you turn it on and turn it off, it plays these very futuristic sounds. I'm going to just turn it on by holding down the power button for just a moment. So that was it powering on, plus there you go. There's your Bluetooth connection sound. So now it's connected to my phone as well. And if we hold it, if you press the button to change modes, there's a different sound for each one of those. That's the radio mode sound. It goes on for a while. There's the, let's press another one here. That's one of the inputs on the back. That's the other one. And then we're going to power down the unit. I'm going to hold down the power button here. Let's hold that down. And now the unit's off. I think those are kind of fun. I think they'd get annoying. I think they would be annoying if you're trying to find the right input and you have to press that button and wait for that little sound. I don't know if you have to wait for it to sound or not, but I mean, it's nice that there is a audio reminder of what input you're on, even though I don't have the sounds associated with the inputs yet. So it doesn't really give me information. It's just, making noise. I would say the biggest disappointment, I hate to use the word disappointment, but I'm going to turn this back on, and with the unit turned on, and I believe it always defaults to Bluetooth mode, but with the unit on and on Bluetooth mode, as I show the front again, you'll see that there's no lights on at all. There's no, you can't tell that this item is on or off. There's no way to just look at it. There's no power button, right? Now I'm going to turn the volume down, and I'm going to switch modes over to the radio mode. Now you hear that cool radio mode sound, right? And I'm going to turn the knob here just a little bit so we can tune in a FM station. And you can see, just like a normal radio boombox up there, there are now 2 LED lights. And boy, you just can't see those at all hardly on the webcam. But there's a red LED light. Let me turn that just a little. There we go. That's a little better. A red LED light that lights up, and then as you turn the knob and you land on a FM station, it does. By the way, there is a switch model or a switch button, push button, to switch it between AM and FM mode. So I'll probably have more luck here with the antenna up, but when you do land on a radio station, the second light comes on and says, okay, they're broadcasting in stereo, and it lights up blue. And just head on there just for a second. So anyway, my point is that it's pretty cool that it lights up with these red and blue lights. You could tell that your radio is on, and you could tell that you're tuned in to a radio station. So there we go. Now we've got the red and the blue lights on there, if you could see that right there. The red one almost looks yellowish for some reason, or I don't know, it's kind of weird. But anyway, regardless, you can see that those lights are on. But there's no lights that are on when it's in Bluetooth mode or in any of the other modes. So I would have liked to have seen turning off. I would like to have seen just in general, like a power light, like a green power light on the front of the unit. I suppose with a Bluetooth speaker and something that runs off a battery, even something as small as a LED, I mean, it's not free electricity. It has to, even as low as the LED light must be. But then again, I mean, with all these places for switches and knobs and stuff, you could put an on-off toggle for the LED toggle thing as well. So that's the only thing that to me it's really missing. It's really missing the like a green power button that when it turns on, that it would light up and you would go, okay, it's on now. Overall, I mean it's heavy. It's heavier than it looks than you think it would be. It's heavier than it looks like it's going to be. So, I mean, I absolutely love it. It's one of those things that just brings me joy. Again, I had my boombox when I was a kid that I got probably in second grade. I just used it to death. I carried it around. I eventually broke the handle off of it, and then I just had to lug it, under my arm when I carried it around places. But it had these same features. It had a cassette player and it had a radio. That was all it had. And I just used it to death. Eventually on mine, the door that went over the cassette broke, and it held the cassettes upside down, and I had it on my headboard. So what would happen is I could play a tape like when I went to bed, and then when it got to the end and hit stop, the tape would literally just fall out and fall on my bed. And I do remember a time or two of it falling and hitting me in the head. A cassette tape, just cassettes from heaven falling down. So like I said, it takes a little bit of messing around with this, and I watched a couple videos just to see which features are not don't actually work. Like this whole row here there's a whole row for all the karaoke kind of stuff, and none of those switches work, and the knobs don't turn. So, but it's so interesting that the knobs that do work blend in so seamlessly with the other things. So it doesn't feel like they've just added a row of controls and they're like, oh, by the way, these are the real controls. It's just seamless integration with the normal things. I'm a little bummed out that the cassette tape doesn't eject quite as well as it should, but that is probably just an issue with mine. And again, with the oh, you know what? It's opening now. It just hangs on this little corner. There we go. So at least I can show you this. That the tape unit and the gears are all very, very new and very tight. But there's the cassette tape holder that's open right there, and you can see that it is hollow inside, ready to receive your mini cassette tape, which again, non-functional but pretty cool. There's also a sticker on the front of this that says Big Power that covers the cassette tape, so you wouldn't be able to see the cassette tape. And for people that owned this particular model, that is a real sticker. Not a real sticker, but a real replica of the original sticker. That sticker came on this thing that said Big Power. So without removing that sticker, that mostly blocks where the cassette tape is. I don't have any nostalgic attachment to the Big Power sticker, and so don't tell anybody, but I might peel that off to where you can see more of the cassette tape behind here, and then put the cassette tape in. To me, that would make me feel more nostalgic. I will say that because it's all scaled down, the handle is pretty small. Now it's exactly the size of one hand. So you can see that I have all four fingers through the handle, and you can carry this around, but it's metal. It just doesn't feel like it's going to last forever. I hope it does. I'm guessing it's metal, hooked to metal that goes through, this outside plastic thing. But when we were kids, we just lugged our boom boxes all around, by the handle and stuff. And I'm a little hesitant to do that, but we have a swimming pool in our backyard. I could totally see putting this out there. Again, this thing is so loud and so clear. you could have it in the backyard, just like in the old days. Like you have a pool party and you put this thing back there and have the music going, and it would work perfectly. It's really overkill for inside the car. Like I said, I was thinking inside the van. If we went camping or something, or I went on a trip and it's like, oh, it's late at night, I want to sleep and have my little radio on, then it could certainly do that. And I did not want something that I had to constantly put physical batteries in. I definitely wanted something that was rechargeable. This meets all my expectations. I really, really, really enjoy it. I'm not going to say bad. They do sell a micro version of this thing, which is the whole boombox is smaller than the size of the original cassette tape. I mean, it's this tiny little thing, and that to me is like a novelty stocking stuffer, and I think those are like $60. That to me is just a complete ripoff. I was not interested in that, and surprisingly, those have been in stock all along, and just not interested. But this thing is just the right size. It's hefty, Again, it's not. I don't think it's going to go sliding around. It does have like little additional rubber feet, like these strips on the bottom that will keep it from sliding around. I just really can't say how much I enjoy this thing. So, I don't think this belongs to any actual collection. I do have a couple other boom boxes that I've bought. Over the past 5 years, I bought 2 boom boxes. Both of them said cassette player untested, which how hard is it to test a cassette player? But cassette player untested means the cassette player doesn't work. And now you're going to be disassembling a thing and finding belts and trying, or, if you can, or maybe something else, the gears are stripped or something, who knows. But long story short, I have 2 boom boxes out in my garage that I don't use because the cassette tapes don't work. And other than that, they're just radios, So this completely replaces those. I will probably get rid of those at some point. Unless I just keep them for decoration and put this one in front of them or something. I don't know. But yeah, this is more than something to put on a shelf and look at. This is something I'm actually going to be using quite a bit in the future. So I'm very glad to have received it. Again, it's pretty expensive for a Christmas gift or whatever, but I certainly do appreciate it. And it's always good to receive a gift that something that you've wanted and something that will get some use. So I hope you had a very good Christmas. I hope you received things that you wanted, and even more than that, I hope that you gave gifts that people really appreciated, that you put thought and time into. That's more important to me these days. It's more important that the people like my gifts than me liking the gifts that I get, which sounds weird, but it really is for me about the giving this time of year. So I hope that you were surrounded by friends or family, and that you're not alone. That's just one of the things that makes me sad, thinking of people being alone on the holidays and stuff. I mean, some people want to be alone on the holidays, but if you don't want to be alone, then I hope you're able to, blah, blah, blah. So, blah, blah, blah. Christmas. All right, let's go. I've been jabbing too long. Anyway, thanks for making it all the way to the end of this long-winded Rando Rob, where I talked about the mini M90 Blaster is the name of it, by New Wave Toys. So I hope you enjoyed hearing about that, and stay tuned for the rest of the week for more throwback episodes of Rando Crop. Happy holiday. I just messed up my own name. It's Rando Rob. I call myself Crob. Hi, my name's Crob. One of my parents were a crab and a lobster. They named me Crob. Oh, God, I gotta get out of here. Happy holidays, everybody, and more old episodes coming later this week, and new episodes coming for now every Monday, and then we'll see what happens when we're done with all the old episodes. Take care, and talk to you soon.